which is as high as a 100-story building.
Going up by long touring elevator, the scenery spot is Zhangjiajie. Overlooking on the stone stage, the Yellowstone Village and the Yaozi Village form a landscape painting, and the Golden Whip Brook and Sand Sword Fossa appears now and then.
Under our feet, the gathering clouds and fogs in the village wreathe the mountain peaks and sometimes pervade like grand rivers and present the peculiar picture of green peaks on river.
To the tourists, rain will bring much inconvenience, but in Zhangjiajie, it is special pleasure to watch rain and the fog side after rain, and is also a grand view site that should not be missed when visiting Zhangjiajie.
Shuirao lies in the center of Wulingyuan scenery spot. In the valley basin that is less than 200 square meters, Golden Whip Brook, Suo Brook, Mandarin Duck Brook, and Dragon Tail Brook, which are the major brooks in the scenery spot, converge.
Around it, the peaks are beautiful and brooks bigger. Those brooks cut out east, west, south, and north gate. That's why it is called 水绕四门. From it to the west, there is a stone inscribed with Zhangjiajie Forest Park, and from here you enter the threshold of forest.
The Golden Whip Brook is 7.5 kilometers long. Brooks run between peaks, valleys, and clouds. It is quite silent here and the forest thrives. The local people all say that Golden Whip Brook is the most beautiful place of Zhangjiajie Forest Park.
I listen to chatters of brooks and the songs sang by birds. The tall and uprising trees around me are all precious nam tree.
The feeling of walking in the forest is really good. Wulingyuan can be named as a gene store of plants. The woody plants here are as many as more than 1,000. Only the kinds of arbors are 2 times more than those in Europe. Before, the good biological environment are welcomed by tourists. In the local area, there was even a saying goes like this: Golden Whip Brook won't dry up even in drought and always fresh after a long rain. Last fall, the local government raised in Golden Whip Brook 150 giant salamanders.
At the place near exit, there is an uprising rock named Golden Whip Rock, and that's also why the brook is named as Golden Whip Brook. Golden Whip Rock is a famous scenery spot of Wulingyuan. The divine eagle and the whip accompany each other, breathing and vivid. The Yellowstone Village is in fact in a huge rocky mountain, which is 1,100 above the sea level. There are vertical cliffs around the rocky mountain, but the top is comparatively flat, which is more than 16 ha. It is said that Zhang Liang's teacher, Yellow Rock Man, once refined sand here, and thus it is called Yellowstone Village. But there is another saying that rocks here all reflect golden color in sun. In Yellowstone Village, because there are cliffs around, so it is very good for viewing the scenery, and thus there are a lot of gazebos. Travel around the village, all the peaks are under our feet. All the peculiar sceneries near and far away are in your eyes. So in the local area, there is a saying goes like, not to visit Yellowstone Village, not to visit Zhangjiajie. Tenli Gallery is between two mountains and is a 5.8 kilometers long valley. In different seasons, different weathers appear in it, and you can view different teams of various scalps. And vivid natural sculptured pictures to enjoy the scenery of Tenli Gallery. You can take touring trolley, the marvelous peaks and rocks along the valley, and the various verdure forests, construct flowing landscape painting. Zhangjiajie is worldwide famous for the unique Caucasic peak forest. However, they are only located in the area of Wulingyuan. The various rock peaks of Tenli Gallery are only at the common boundary of sandstone and calcareous rock, so the mountains of Tenli Gallery is not the most steep, and you should taste carefully the scenery of Wulingyuan. Suoxi Valley is transliterated from Tujia language, which means foggy haze. Walking in the landscape of Suobrook Valley, the charming spring side gradually unveils. Trees thrive, wild cherry are blossoming, leaves which are as high as dozens jump upright. An enormous rock seems waving in the wind blowing from mountains. Baby Blue Lake is shining in the sun, quite silent. In the forest, birds chatter and flowers flourish. People can feel the solitary scenery when walking in it. Suoxi Lake is a man-made lake which lies at the entrance of Suoxi Valley Nature Reserve. Because the lake water is supplied to people living in Wulingyuan, so till now it is not open to the tourists. So common, tourists can only have a glimpse of it by buses. Since 1999, the government of Wulingyuan had made many environment protecting policies to release the pressure that tourism has brought to the scenery spot. To protect waterhead, all the touring facilities in the scenery spot and the working and living areas have to move out before the time deadline and let the quality of water reach the nation first-class drinking criteria. To protect the aerosphere environment, the off-gas of all cars driven in the scenery spot should all reach the European 2 effluent standard. In addition, in the more than 260 square kilometers scenery spot, the generous smoking ban are also carried out by thousands of tourists self-consciously.
Precious Peak Lake lies in the south part of Suoxi Valley, and in the Wulingyuan scenery spot, it is the only scenery spot that is mainly about water. In Precious Peak Lake scenery spot, the first sight you see is this grand waterfall. The waterhead of this waterfall is originally very small, and after excavating by people, it became so magnificent. The iron chain bridge below the waterfall and the green bamboos nearby were once backdrops in the soap opera of Journey to the West. Pleasure in the wild can also be found in Precious Peak Lake. Travelers can take a rest when exhausted with mountain climbing. According to the introduction of an administrator, the Monkey King is sheer wild and inclined to injure people. In order to keep the mountain monkeys here, it was shut away, whereas the monkeys set free on the mountain are its children or grandchildren. As long as you bring the monkeys meeting presents, they will flourish their hands in front of you. But bear in mind that don't play tricks on monkeys, for they are still filled with charity. It would be the best to treat them with courtesy. Precious Peak Lake is actually an artificial lake in the scenery spot. It is located between the cliffs of Precious Peak Mountains and is uplifted highly by the mountain-formed basin. A suspended heavenly lake halfway on the mountainside, therefore, the surface of the lake cannot be seen from outside the mountains, and the waterfall at the entrance of the scenery spot runs out of the dam of the Precious Peak Lake. One can imagine how high the waterfall is to the lake surface and how vast and mighty and the flow of the water is. Precious Peak Lake develops from the influx consisting of rainwater, spring water, and underground water, the primary functions of which are to prevent flood, irrigate, and generate electricity. Owing to the good quality of water, it also serves as drinking water for the local Wulingyuan residents. Storage battery boats are provided on the lake to go boating on the lake, which is as long as 9 kilometers, and enjoy lakefront mountains covered with green trees against green water in the lake. At one side of the cliff, a boat stops here, and whenever a yacht passes by, the waiting lads will sing the Tujia folk song. Although it seems like assembly line work, the young men are indeed endowed with good voice. Musical dialogue is a local convention of Tujia ethnic minority group. Every March 3 in Chinese lunar calendar is the right day for musical dialogue. At that time, even more local lads and lasses come to Precious Peak Lake for boating and to express their friendship and love by way of musical dialogues. There are well over 100 caves in Wulingyuan, where the best exploited one can be the Huanglong Cave. There is an underground river called Xiangshui River in Huanglong Cave. The full length of this river is 3 kilometers, but only 800 meters have been developed. To proceed by boat, walls and stalagmite on both banks show themselves indistinctly, like poems and paintings in a shroud of obscurity and mystery. In this cave, there has already been an artificial pavement for the tourists to walk on, which rises and falls and turns to the east and to the west from time to time, interlocking each other like a spider web. From the bottom of the water surface to the ceiling of the cave, the fall of it reaches more than 100 meters. As long as you observe it carefully, under some dim light, there are some plants growing here. According to the experts' textual research, plant seeds may have been rushed down by water from high mountains, but they may also have been carried in here by small animals living in the cave. The lamplight replaces sunlight, so by the limited photosynthesis, some plants can grow gradually. Huanglong Cave is generally regarded by the Geological Authority as the largest in scale, the most comprehensive in content, and the most beautiful in scenery, all-round cave champion in China. The body of the cave is both huge and deep, possessing 4 stories altogether, 7.6 kilometers in length and 100,000 square kilometers in area. Until now, 13 halls and 96 corridors have been discovered. In the cave, the marvelous spectacles of waterfalls, underground rivers, and innumerous stalagmites, stone pillars, stone flowers, and etc. present a variety of posters. Among all the stalactites, The magic needle for calming the sea and the precious throne of the Dragon King are the most amazing. The magic needle for calming the sea, shaped by drops of water for millions of years, is as high as 19.2 meters, with a diameter of 10 centimeters, transparent all over all the way to the ceiling of the place. Since it is still growing now, thick at ends and thin in the middle part, the management authority has it insured in 1998, and the insurance is 100 million RMB, which makes the threshold of local scenery insurance in World Natural Heritage. This cave, discovered by a local militia soldier, is hailed as national treasure. I thought that the cave is just a cave, and accessible caves for the tourists throughout China are over 100. Even the most fantastic stalactites is nothing but people's affected description. However, the grandness of the Huanglong Cave in its power is beyond people's imagination, resulting in gradual decline. Tianmen Mountain, located in the south of Zhangjiajie city, only 8 kilometers far from the downtown, is a famous mountain first recorded in the history of Zhangjiajie. Tianmen Mountain is famous for its Tianmen Cave, according to the historic records in the Three Kingdoms. For example, the year of AD 263, Tianmen Cave opened on its own suddenly, which was seen as auspicious in the eyes of Wu Emperor Sun Xiu. That is the origin of the name of Tianmen Cave. The highest peak of Tianmen Mountains has an elevation of 1,518.6 meters, and the average height is about 1,400 meters. It was approved as a national forest park in June 1992, with an area of as vast as over 190 square kilometers. Meanwhile, it is also a national geological park and a famous tourist scenic spot in Hunan province. After experiencing several orogeny in the history of geology, in addition to hundreds of millions of denudation by wind and rain, Tianmen Mountain formed the unique and unusual karst platform's physiognomy, with precipitous and changing panorama of sceneries. Comparatively complete secondary intact forests have been preserved in the peak, where there's an abundant plant resources, and the rare primitive mountain dove trees involucrate a community with entangling vines, tall ancient trees, stalagmite and caverns everywhere. In 1999, the feat of many world master aviators driving airplanes across Tianmen Cave once drew the world's attention. On March 17, 2006, superfine aerobatic flight of Russian Air Forces was held there, which once again brought Tianmen Mountain to the focus of the world. Sitting at the upper course of Li River, Kuzhu village by Maoyang River bank was once prosperous during Ming and Qing dynasties. There is a small population in Kuzhu village. Most of the young people have already worked outside the village, leaving the elders and children at home. In the era of flourish water transportation, many wealthy businessmen emerged nearby. From the grand houses along the streets, one can figure the prosperity at that time. It is said that during the period at the height of power and splendor, the local timbers, Chinese herbal medicines, mountain products, etc. were all carried out by ships, whereas agricultural products, textile and others were brought in by ship. But at the beginning of 20th century, the nearby area was attacked by bandits, so the ships or boats were frightened at passing by.
这千年的神秘，秀水八百，闪耀着童话的光芒。火火耶，火火耶，美丽的张家界，有我的梦想，神奇的张家界，有我的渴望。风儿那个告诉我，鸟儿那个告诉我，这里是山的王国，云的故乡，云的呀故乡。有一个地方，这个地方令人神往，它飘进梦里，又融在心上。满山的鸽子花，张开那可爱的翅膀，不老的歌谣，化作那瀑布在歌唱。火火耶，火火耶，美丽的张家界，有我的梦想，神奇的张家界。